or any type of logic or rationality. Because if the universe was infinite forever, that would mean our past, our history is also infinite and forever. But can we have an infinite set of past events? No, we can't, because it leads to contradictions. For example, even mathematicians recognize this. Let me give you an example. You have these two lines here. You can see point A and B, D and C, and you can see they're finite lines. But if we stretch the two black lines onto infinity forever, then I ask you, what is the distance between these 2 points? Now one may argue, well, the distance is infinity because it's between two infinites. The two lines have been stretched to infinity now. But you can also argue that the distance between those 2 points is finite because it's between 2 points. So there's a contradiction. It leads to absurdities. As the famous philosophers say, the concept of the infinity has no export into the real world. Aptly put, the famous German mathematician David Hilbert, he said, the infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. It neither exists in nature nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play is solely that of an idea. But historical events or past events are real things, not just ideas. So we can't have an infinite set of past events. We wouldn't have today. Therefore, we need a cause. Let me explain this with a nice example. Say you wanted to borrow the book called the Quran in Teesside University Library, and you had 4 people in front of you. You would have to wait 4 people long. If you had 400 people in front of you, you have to wait 400 people long. Now what if you had an infinite amount of people in front of you, or forever amount of people in front of you? You would never get the Quran. Similarly, we can't have an infinite set of past events. The philosopher Alexander Vilenkin, he puts this really nicely, and he takes his gloves off. He doesn't hold any punches. He says, it is said that an argument is what convinces the reasonable man, and a proof is what convinces even an unreasonable man. With the proof now in place, cosmologists can no longer hide behind the possibility of past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. Now I would argue this is supported by scientific evidence, astrophysical evidence. It's not just a philosophical discussion. We've all heard of the Big Bang, where it was claimed that physical time and space were created and matter and energy were also created. The 4 prominent scientists, J. Richard, James Gunn, David Schramm and Beatrice Tinley, describe the event of the Big Bang as follows. And they say, the universe began from a state of infinite density, this is the key word, infinite density about 1 Hubble time ago. Space and time were created in that event, and so was all matter in the universe. But what does infinite density actually mean in scientific discourse? It actually means nothing. So we have to believe that the universe came out of nothing. Similarly, Cambridge astronomer Fred Hoyle, he states, the universe at a point in the past was shrunk down to nothing at all. So the Big Bang model requires us to believe that something was created out of nothing. For example, Anthony Kenny, professor at Oxford University, he says, a proponent of the Big Bang theory, at least if he's an atheist, must believe that the universe came out of nothing and by nothing. But brothers, sisters and friends, out of nothing, nothing comes. Even atheists recognize this. The famous philosopher David Hume, he said, I never asserted to absurd proposition as that anything might arise without a cause. Similarly, P.G. Zwart, in his publication About Time, says, if there is anything we find inconceivable, it is that something could arise from nothing. And the famous eminent physicist, Sir Arthur Eddington, quite interesting statement here. He says, the beginning of the universe seems to present insuperable difficulties unless we agree to look at it as frankly supernatural. So there is a cause for the universe based on philosophical, scientific, logical and rational evidence. But what is the nature of this cause? Because some atheists still claim, fine, there is a cause for the universe, but it's mechanical. There's no being, it's just mechanical. But I would argue that this cause must be personal. Because if it was mechanical, then the cause could not exist without the effect. And if we're saying this cause caused time and the whole universe, the cause must be eternal. But if it was mechanical, then the universe must also be eternal. The cause can't exist without effect. But in this case, we know the effect, the universe, is finite, had a beginning. So it means an eternal entity chose the universe to come into existence. And choice indicates personality. So it must be a personal being. Also, this being is not subject to time, because we know it created time. For example, Stephen Hawking, he says almost everyone now believes that the universe and time itself had a beginning at the Big Bang. Also, this cause must be uncaused, because if we say then what caused the cause, then we can argue what caused the cause that caused the cause, what caused the cause that caused the cause that caused the cause, and we're going again for infinity. But we've already discussed that infinity regress, going back to infinity, just simply doesn't exist. So there must have been a point where there was a sole cause. So, the summary of this first argument is as follows, a very basic summary for everyone to understand. 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. 2. The universe began to exist, as we've just substantiated. 3. Therefore the universe has a cause. The second argument is that God makes sense, the existence of God makes sense of the fine-tuning of the universe for intelligent life. Because if we look at the Big Bang, and the initial conditions for the Big Bang were exquisitely arranged to permit a life-permitting universe. For example, Professor of Theoretical Physics Paul Davies, he states, the explosive vigor of the universe is thus matched with almost unbelievable accuracy to its gravitating power. The Big Bang was not evidently any old bang, but an explosion of exquisitely arranged magnitude. Now, when the laws of nature are expressed mathematically, various constants are discovered, and these constants are not dependent on the laws of nature. For example, let me give you 2 examples. The expansion rate of the universe. Now, the expansion rate of the universe, if it differed by more than 10 to the power of minus 18, which is 1/quillionth of a second, there would have been no universe at all. For example, even Stephen Hawking, in his publication, A Brief History of Time, he acknowledges the following. He says, if the rate of expansion was 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller by even 1 part in 100,000 million, the universe would have recollapsed before it ever reached its present size. The second example is about the Big Bang's low entropy condition. Roger Penrose of the Oxford University has calculated the odds, the chance, of the Big Bang's low entropy condition existing just by chance alone. And he said it's 10 to the power of 10, which is 10 and add 123 zeros. And Penrose comments, he says, I cannot even recall seeing anything else in physics whose accuracy is known to approach even remotely a figure like 1 in the 10 to the power of 10. So there are 3 possible explanations for this fine-tuning of the universe to permit intelligent life. Only 3 possible explanations. 1, physical necessity. 2, just by chance. Or 3, supernatural design. Well, it can't be physical necessity because we just discussed that these constants, these numbers, are not dependent on physical law. So it's not physical necessity. 2, it can't be chance because the numbers are so high that if you were able to say, yes, it was chance, that is equivalent of me saying that there's a possibility that my grandmother is a pink elephant that was born on Pluto that flew here on a giant feather. Because if you start believing in these astronomical figures, then there's no positive discussion. Then we could say, what if this and what if that? What if we're not really here? What if the world is actually flat, but someone made you believe it's round? These ifs, it doesn't create any positive discussion and we're going nowhere. So it can't be chance, because in day-to-day life, when the scientist or the atheist deals with his life, he doesn't entertain such chance. But when it comes to God, chance is possible. So the third argument is the most suffice argument for this, which is it must have been a supernatural designer. So the summary of this second argument. 1, the fine-tuning of the universe is due to physical necessity, chance, or design. 2, it can't be due to physical necessity, and it can't be due to chance. Therefore, 3, it is due to supernatural design. My final argument is that God makes sense of objective moral values in the world. The argument is as follows. If God does not exist, then objective moral values do not exist.